So I think one of the really important things is obviously that you have an understanding of how something's written well. You don't have to be absolutely fantastic, but you really have to love being at the show and kind of convey that. Something else that's really important, and I know it's really basic, is show that you actually care about doing a good job by just grammar and spelling and all that sort of thing. I know it's a really basic thing, but it kind of proves to me that you really want to be, be involved.
Sorry. More or less the same from my end as well too. I'm always happy to give young writers a go. There's always people approaching us asking if they can write for Ray. I like to see some sort of evidence perhaps that they've actually read some music journalism in the past. And I'll usually ask them what they read, what they like to read, if they read blogs, if they read other music magazines. And also try and feel them out a little bit in terms of what sense of they have of music's history, I suppose, as well. Because a lot of people can be very passionate about one thing, but they may not have a great deal of knowledge behind it to back it up. They can be passionate about one particular style of music, but have no idea of the context in which where that music falls. So knowing a little bit about these people in terms of how much they know or how much they want to know is always good, and that always makes me feel more comfortable letting people try out the magazine. In terms of actual writing quality, that's something that can be learned, it can be acquired. Somebody can start out as a very rough sort of writer, but they can be polished up into something much better. It just depends on their passion.
I agree with Crystal and Chris. Passion and the qualities that Chris just went through are integral, I think. Also, I guess to some degree, the reality is that there's going to be niches that we need filled at any given time, so I do like to find out what sort of stuff they're into and whether I've got an overabundance of people covering that at the time. And unfortunately, it's just the reality of it going in. But that's basically just what these guys said.
And one thing that I also find, really respect is people that have an opinion, whether it's good or bad, rather than just kind of saying it was definitely an amazing gig. There's so many times that you see people kind of almost advertising the show rather than relaying experience as to whether it was good or bad. If it's all negative or all positive, I don't find it an interesting or enjoyable movie.
I think a lot of bands would do well to try and find some kind of hook. Just saying, we're playing a gig, you should come, it'll be awesome, is not really going to be that interested in wanting to find out more about the band. If they can provide some kind of hook or interest to me, make themselves sound interesting, just be a little bit creative or imaginative, that's a really big help. And then that will make me more inclined to listen more closely to their music as well too, to decide whether or not they want further coverage again. So just showing a little bit of creativity is always good.
I see lots of press releases coming in all the time through Triple Z as well, because we have our online and events section of our website, etc. I think what these guys are sort of trying to communicate is, if you're putting on a show that might be a bit different, might have a bit of flavour, all ages or outdoor show or something like that, instead of just, hi, I'm this band and we're playing at Rosie's, I think what we're trying to say is, if you've got a hook that's not just a standard gig, that you're actually thinking about being creative with where you're playing or what you're putting on, even if it's a theme tonight or something. I don't know, sometimes it can be tacky, sometimes it can be really cool.
In terms of hunting or discovering new music and new bands in Brisbane, I think most musicians in Brisbane are aware. They know that they can come to us. We don't that often actually have to hunt for new music, and people will come to us, and we will eventually sort of uncover them. In terms of being sort of flooded with mediocrity, I think that's quite harsh. I mean, everybody is trying. Everybody is trying. Just some people aren't using their imagination as much as others. And providing them with constructive feedback and criticism is important, but at the same time, you know that some people are not going to be interested in your constructive feedback and criticism. They have in their own mind that they are going to be the next Soundgarden when they clearly aren't. So, in those cases, it's almost a matter of letting them down gently. I think, well, that's the tack that we often take anyway.
I'm in a different position where I don't have unlimited space so much. It's more, I guess, unlimited writers, limited writers and limited time to get everything to the site. But with them, where you said, where do you find the stuff rather than just press releases? Obviously, I go out a lot. I check out a heap of bands. There's a whole heap of writers that are obviously not just sitting at home writing. They're out checking out gigs.
One thing I would say, like, for me, since I started in the music business, overall almost completely unrecognisable to when I started, but one of the things that has remained the same is your approach to media. And whilst the media is very different, I think your approach is very similar, and it's about, like, you go to courses about marketing and promotion, they teach you about not to market or promote in isolation, and I think that makes so much sense. So getting excited and going, we can get our picture in the street press this week, but we've got a free gig happening, so there's not really, you're not really selling something. It's probably an isolated waste of an opportunity that you could have saved a bit later. And I think it's about going, okay, to have an impact to your band or for what you're trying to achieve, it's about having a few things going on at the same time. So having, some support from Triple Z at the same time as a good gig that people are going to go to, that maybe it's an EP launch or, there's some consequence, is a word that I use a lot with this kind of stuff, because if there's no consequence, don't waste your marketing chip, if you know what I mean. So it's about having some momentum in all different areas, but if you don't, like I've seen it happen many times, lots of big major record labels will think that they can buy success, and one thing, a full page ad in Rolling Stone magazine in isolation, if there's no momentum for an act, means nothing. So it's about building momentum, and I think the other thing, it was really boring, but forward planning is really important. So to give editors or people in the media as much notice as possible that something is coming in a concise way, like remembering that people are very busy and just being professional and concise. Here's a good photo, you give them a good photo once. Here's a good press release that gives them the information they need once, so they don't have to follow you up. Try not to let them down, if there's an interview coming up and by the artist not turning up, that kind of stuff, and just, treating people with respect and giving them as much notice as possible. That kind of simple approach to things hasn't changed, and it still seems to work.